The road to 6 wins goes directly through Madison, Wisconsin, and the Badgers.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is the Tuesday of Beat Wisconsin week here on Locked On Huskers. I'm DP, your host. I'll take you through this episode of Locked On Huskers, your Huskers every day. Before we get into the Meet the Badgers episode this week, if you would, Rico, kind sir, let them know about Jase Medical.
Thanks, DP. We spend a lot of time talking together, you and I. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts and who sits. I'm thankful for that connection we have. And today, I want our chat to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. Do you realize what that means? Bring on extended travel, bring on the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You are covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generic for Cialis, Viagra, or Revatio prescription. And this is possible because of our friends at Jase Medical. Go online right now at jasemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jase. I am thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills in half to have it. I order most of my daily meds with a year's supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone. If you or someone you love would like to get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily med, go to jasemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. Back to you, DP.
Thank you, sir. Rico, greatly appreciated. I want to bounce through a couple of things here, and the idea of comparing who Wisconsin is to Nebraska and kind of go into some of the storytelling that needs to be had when you're talking about a 5-5 Wisconsin team that had, there's similar characters in their stories that Nebraska and Wisconsin are carrying into this game. And I want to go through them. I kind of want to step through. So first of all, I hope that you have clicked subscribe and you're getting the regular content and getting the notifications as well. A couple of things about Wisconsin. And I have to say that in doing some quick contacts around the program and around the Big Ten. And the big story is just, again, with Luke Fickell and his season, the expectation Nebraska fans can kind of relate to, that a new coach of some renown and some success in previous and other places, the expectation is for you to pick up the program and carry it to the levels in which you've previously achieved in other places. And sometimes there is a simple and blatant disregard for the circumstances that cause the need for Matt Rule and Luke Fickell to take over these programs. And these are not your typical mom and pop football programs. These are two unique programs that have long legacies and have successful mentors around the program and a lineage of successful players. The question of talent on the roster, coaching leadership, coaching mentality and philosophies, then you get into being honorable and paying tribute to the previous teams in the program itself, and then the conversations with the fan base that carry you through each week. Well, Wisconsin had high hopes. I mean, they were thought to be the favorites in the Big Ten West, even with new coaches and new coordinators, that it should be easy enough. But as happens in the Big Ten, that losses can creep up on you, and then they start to accumulate. And before you know it, you're treading water, and then you're in quicksand. One of these two programs, whether it's Nebraska at 5-6 or Wisconsin at 5-6, will feel like they're in quicksand, and the harder they fight, the deeper they'll be pulled. One of them will come out of this thing 6-5 feeling like, listen, we've accomplished a thing. We've got things to build on, and we have some progression that we can point to. The two coaches have gone about the process of evaluating their seasons differently. Matt Rule yesterday was very open in that, listen, I'm responsible for this. Don't worry about coordinators, and I don't need that to be part of the conversation. He wasn't throwing any of the players under the bus. He was simply saying that we as coaches need to better prepare our players. Fickle went in a different direction, and to say that, well, Wisconsin's play against Northwestern was embarrassing and awful. And he said, and here's the quote, there's not a single complimentary thing right now we're doing. And I don't think we've done in the last couple of weeks, to be honest with you. Now, there's a lot of meat and potatoes behind that you reach a point of frustration and then, some understanding of what it is that you want from your team and what you expect of your team. And then concurrently what they want and need for themselves, what the expectations are. There's been conversation that the play calling is an issue. And there's certain situations. So, of course, Nebraska fans can wrap their brain around that because immediately, in immediate past history, there's question of play calling. Then it's a matter of matching up your play calling with the talent that you have. And with new coaches and new coordinators, you're talking about new systems, new verbiage, often new talent. And there's a lot of new talent in the Wisconsin program. And then there's questions about, well, listen, is this good enough? Will this work here? Nebraska fans are familiar with, well, there's a Nebraska way. Well, there's a Wisconsin way, and there has been a Wisconsin way. And the question then is averaging 22 points a game offensively the Wisconsin way? And to a fan, they say no. They say, no, this isn't good enough. And that's really a thing. I mean, you're talking about programs that are used to being physical. And Phil Longo, as the new coordinator, has some resume behind him that leads folks to believe that there's a reason to get excited about it. His time at Ole Miss and then in North Carolina. But there's also the Sam Houston State resume. It's not easy in the Big Ten, and it's not always easy for coaches and players to adjust to new style of play, new physicality, levels of physicality, fan passion, fans being passionate at a level that I can tell you that, having spent time in Carolina, that Carolina football fans are not the same as Nebraska football fans or Wisconsin football programs. Fair to say that Ole Miss, the fans react and respond differently. And that's what's happening. That's what happens with a new coaching staff. As much as you want to, even if it's not changing the culture, it is restarting, rebranding, reimagining the culture in your own voice, in your own words, in your own image. And that's a real thing that's in play here for Wisconsin. And they haven't had the amount of success or the type of success that they thought. Offensively, listen, you've got elite talent, but injuries, and Nebraska fans will roll with this, that injuries, you can't plan them, but you better have a plan for them. And Wisconsin having a 6-year quarterback on its roster who's battling injury, who comes off the injury, hand injury no less, to throw 45 times against Northwestern because you don't have a run game. And that lack of run game, pass game balance has put Wisconsin in some very dark, dark places and forced to have some very dark conversations about who they are and what they're trying to be. It's all spectacular to watch, but it all comes into play Saturday at Camp Randall as the Huskers and Badgers take at it. We'll throw it to break. We'll come back. I'll get into some more of the details because through all of this, Mordecai Tanner, Braylon Allen, there are names that are known, and then there are names that need to be known as you get your Husker eyes forward to Wisconsin. Hey, gang, DP here. Before we get back to the Badgers, super producer Rico, if you would please, let them know about LinkedIn.
Thanks, DP. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Just head on over to LinkedIn Jobs, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find quality candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Back to you, DP.
Thank you, sir. As we go through the preparation for this beat Wisconsin week, and there are a couple of things that Fickell has said that he isn't satisfied with what's happened, and Phil Longo isn't satisfied with what's happening. 22 points a game. If the numbers don't meet, then there's somewhere in the details that you need to get your eyes to, and the eyes have pointed firmly to the fact that they do not have offensive balance. And then you have to have this conversation of what offensive balance is to you, because some coaches work from play count, that if I'm running the ball 40 times, I should pass the ball 40 times or be able to with equal effectiveness and efficiency. Equal. There's some coaches that say, no, we would rather have that balance in yardage rather than play count. And there's several reasons for that. There's lots of magic and numbers and analytics that fall behind that. And so it depends on who you are. And Nebraska fans understand it. If you're having success in the running game and the numbers look good, you're number one in the Big Ten, but it's not putting points on the board, then it's not effective or efficient. There are programs that throw the ball quite a bit more than they run it, and they're putting points on the board. It depends on who you are and what your talent is and what scheme you're running. But all that's in play for Wisconsin. That's the difficulty that they're having. So Nebraska walks into Camp Randall basically on equal footing other than the location of the game. Both coming off difficult losses. Both of them trying to raise and elevate a historic program back to its rightful place. With new coaches, new schemes, new developers of talent, and then often new rosters to match. But when you talk about balance in play, I mean, again, Wisconsin will tell you, this is the quote, we're trying to find a way to have some balance, which right now we have none. There are things you want to do and things that all of a sudden you recognize that you can't do. And it makes it really difficult when you have this vision of what your identity wants to be. But as you get into it, you start to recognize, I don't know that you can do that. Again, I'm pointing out what's going on in Wisconsin so Husker fans know what this team is walking into. They have issues of their own. They have problems of their own. Talent, it's never just talent, and it's never just coaching, and it's never just fan expectation. It's never any or all of them until it is. And what Wisconsin is trying to figure out is, in order for us to salvage this season and turn this 5-5 record into a 7-5 record, is to figure out, one, offensively, who they are, what the identity is. Two, are they going to be able to run the ball? Do you going to have your best player? And again, Nebraska fans, I keep pointing at them, pointing in the mirror, because if Braylon Allen is your best player and he's got an ankle issue and they're not sure about how effective he's going to be on Saturday in Camp Randall, and the Husker fans don't understand it, Heinrich Harburg has an ankle issue and we're not sure if he's going to play or not. From today's reports, Jeff Sims and Chubba Purdy got most of the work at quarterback, and that's a real thing. But we don't know. We don't know how healthy Chubba is. Jeff Sims is the healthiest of the bunch. Husker fans will still feel some sort of way about that. Some will be, fine with it, and some will kind of clinch up. But Wisconsin is going through the same thing with not knowing. They thought that there may be a chance that they would have Braylon Edwards against Northwestern. He carried the ball 3 times, couldn't extend himself, couldn't really get into the flow of what was required, and they had to go to the bench. Again, they just got their starting quarterback back. You only had your running back for a couple of plays. But you do have some talent, but you also have questions. You have questions. And a big part of this thing that sometimes in deciding who your best players are, and again, I've asked this question many times on this podcast, a team, if you want to know how good a team is, ask them who they think their best player is and what their best play with that player is. Wisconsin walked into a season thinking that handing the ball to Braylon Allen would probably be the most productive, effective thing that they could do. And let's be clear, even in his injury, he has put up some numbers. Braylon Allen has 133 carries. Now, quick math, 5-5 team in 10 games, that's 13 carries a game. That's not a lot, but he also has 8 touchdowns in those games. 757 yards, 5.7 yards a carry. They had Jase Medical behind him, but then he gets injured. And between them, that's 12 rushing touchdowns and an average of 160 yards a game running the ball. Tannen Mordecai was QB1, being injured. He has 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, just over 1,300 yards. He's averaging 197 a game. He has some talent. He has some talent to throw to. Will Pauling is pretty fantastic. 56 catches for just about 600 yards. He's about 10.5 yards a catch, 3 touchdowns. But here's the thing. When Wisconsin gets him the ball versus whether they're going to be able to get him the ball, there are tons of numbers in play. Defensively, Wisconsin they have some experience. They have some knowledgeable guys that have played a lot of college football games. But the sack numbers pretty much come from linebackers. Means you're not getting home with the bigs, which gives Nebraska some things to work from and some things to be concerned about. Because if you're bringing linebackers, the advantage of bringing linebackers is not knowing when you're bringing, who you're bringing, or when they're trying to get home. And those linebackers can move around, and they require some different blocking assignments out front. But that's Wisconsin's game. Now, they haven't had total success in it. And here's a couple of things. They beat a Buffalo team. They beat them by 3 touchdowns. They lose to Washington State on the road. They beat Georgia Southern. Okay, so that kind of plays out the way it is. Then they beat Purdue pretty handily, 3 touchdowns. They beat Rutgers at Camp Randall. They lose to Iowa in a competitive game, but it wasn't very good offensively. Then they go to Champaign and beat Illinois. They lose in a brawl to Ohio State. Then they lose a surprising loss to Indiana in Bloomington. And then last week's 24-10 loss to Northwestern. Listen, there's bruise and then there's deep bruise. Wisconsin losing to Northwestern at Camp Randall. This is deep bruise, long recovery, leaves a lot of questions about how you got there. Nebraska has an opportunity to get a team that's not playing at their highest level. And no, we can't say that Nebraska's playing at its highest level. But somebody will find answers. Somebody will find a way. Somebody will put 2 and 2 together and come up with the 4 that is needed to get a win and get their 6th win. That's what we're asking for. That's what we're talking about. I'll go through some more of the numbers. Wisconsin's offense, Nebraska's offense. We'll talk about those things when we come back to Locked On Huskers. Hey, gang, this is a fast edition, an episode of Locked On Huskers. And again, as we go through, because this is where we're sharing information and getting a little bit smarter about Wisconsin and what's in play. Now, listen, the numbers mean whatever you want the numbers to mean, and there's fact in the number. That Wisconsin is on an 8-game win streak against Nebraska. Now, again, this isn't Fickle's Badgers, and this isn't Matt Rule's Huskers. But all time, Wisconsin leads 12 games to 4. At Madison, the Huskers have only won one time. Last time these two teams met, Wisconsin snuck away with a win 15-14. But they are on a 9-game win streak dating all the way back to 2012. Again, new coaches, new coordinators, a lot of new players. Opportunities. Opportunity knocks. And look, I can't profess to speak for all Husker fans. But what I can suggest to you is this. For the numbers that exist, just like Maryland, just like Minnesota, just like Michigan State, Nebraska's numbers look good and match up against their opponent. The key will be, can they execute? Can they execute? Nebraska still rolls into this week, number 1 in the Big Ten in rushing. Wisconsin 7th, but the numbers are good, and quite frankly, they're dealing with injuries the same as Nebraska. Wisconsin has a higher rated passing offense at 5th in the Big Ten Conference at 217 yards a game to Nebraska's 127. Total offense, Wisconsin is 6th at 372 yards a game at 22 points. Nebraska's 10th, 12th in scoring, 10th in total offense at 18.9 points a game. Defensively, Nebraska's numbers stand up and stack up against Wisconsin. 2nd in rush defense, 10th in pass defense. It's the only thing that Wisconsin does better than Nebraska. 6th in total defense, 5th in total scoring at 18 points a game. Wisconsin has only given up 19.6 points a game. All signs point to a competitive, physical brawl at Camp Randall. Quarterback play will come into it. Tanner Mordecai versus whoever starts for Nebraska. We're not sure yet. So there's no point of speculating on that. We were told, as we were told yesterday, that Heinrich is injured, that Jeff is the healthiest of the 3 quarterbacks. And certainly that'll play into it. We'll know Saturday more about both these programs, but this is going to be a long week. We're going to talk Nebraska's defense against Wisconsin's offense tomorrow. Let's compare and let's see how this thing's going to break down. Black shirts have an opportunity to be dominant. They have been. Wisconsin's offense is not as explosive as offenses past or other offenses that Nebraska's faced this season. And the black shirts have played as well as anybody that Wisconsin has seen this season. Should be an interesting matchup and fun to watch. Again, somebody's going to walk away with their 6th win and a chance to exhale about being bowl game eligible. It is our hope that it is the fine folks from Nebraska and the Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. We'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big